Good afternoon, everyone. So it's Friday afternoon. The sun has got here, starting to warm up. Rainfall is going to start becoming less. So now it's the season to get our final summer crops in. We've just recently planted a few peanuts, and we do that a little bit different. And I'm in the process of planting some beans that will be our dried beans for the season. We're doing black beans. And in the midst of that, we'll have intercropped spaghetti squash and butternut squashes in there. And between our peanuts, we're going to have, looks like we did 24-inch spacing between the peanut rows to give them room to do their thing, because their arms reach out, and where their arms touch the ground is where the peanuts are formed in the soil. So if they can't stretch out and lay down, you get a lower yield on peanuts. So we like peanuts, so we want to get peanuts. So we did 24-inch spacing between the rows, but between the rows, I planted a crop of buckwheat and two crops of milo. So it's peanuts, milo, buckwheat, milo. So our chickens, in about 45 days, will get the milo, and the straw residue will just kind of tidy up and tuck in between that 24-inch spacing, and the buckwheat will get harvested out, and that'll go to the chickens and also as mulch as well in the system. So it's a way to intercrop spacing and get extra from it, extra from the space, without having the space just bare and open. So you can see here we've got the buckwheat and the milo sprouting and the peanuts, and then kind of a spotty row of milo, and then more buckwheat. And then in between those sections, we've got zucchinis coming along. Planted some of those at different stages, so we'll get a little bit of stagger in our zucchini, but primarily going to do one crop of zucchini this year, and it'll be between the beds of peanuts and black beans. And on this side, this has just been seeded to the black beans, and they're in 6-inch spacing between the rows, and it's just a simple furrow with a hoe and then seeding them in about every 4 inches, and that's interplanted with buckwheat as well. And then down the centers of these wide spaced beds, this is a wide row, it's about 48 inches, and then this one will be 48 inches. And this is what we're doing here. Just a pickaxe and removing Bermuda grass. These are beds that we haven't had in production in going on 3 years now. So it's been just in pasture. It's accumulated lots of Bermuda grass, lots of ragweed. There's many ways to reestablish. This seems to be the most therapeutic, putting things back in order at the farm by hand. We could use things like a tiller, and unfortunately it chops up and mixes in a lot of things. You spend a lot more time getting it out. So this section was pioneered with chickens, 30 feet at a time, and we had about 25 birds on that section, so they stripped off a lot for us, and they manured it, and they scratched it, ate a lot of the bugs along the way. And then we're coming in with this pickaxe, busting out the Bermuda grass and the ragweed by hand, and then we will rake them up, put them in beds, and this will be black beans and winter squash. And then following that succession of beans, which will just get cut down for dry beans, the spaghetti squash and butternuts will then take over these wide row spacing, and it'll be a nice full ground cover at that point. And these beds hopefully will never have to be broken again. They'll be mulched and then be seeded out to Austrian pea and winter wheat after the butternuts and the spaghetti squash are done. So one other key element to how we farm here is this section, and you can see some of the transplants do not look happy because our heat got really hot. So this is comfrey, and this is a pear tree. So setting up I don't know if you could see that very well, we'll get some better pictures, but setting up a fruit tree guild in the middle of our grain and bean cropping This will have a pear tree that will have lupines, and it has a hollyhock in there as perennials. And then we've put in a few marigolds for fun, and it has some peppers on the corner. But this will be an established perennial system with comfrey. It'll get seeded out to crimson clover, and then some other perennial shrubs in this that will act as support species for the long run. We're going to put in some Illinois bundleflower, which will be a perennial, but we're going to put in Sesbania, which will be this season's support species. It just helps bring the fertility. It adds living ground cover and mulch to the system. And then as this tree gets larger, we'll probably incorporate a vining layer to it as well. And this little island will stay its own little fruit tree guild in the midst of our grain and bean legume cropping systems, so that the perennial systems, the perennial roots, establish the fungi and keep everything going in the midst of our annual cropping. So each year we're adding mulch, and we'll be breaking the roots off, we'll be cutting the roots off, we won't be tilling anymore, so those mycorrhizal fungi will be able to establish in the system because of the perennials in the system. Anyway, that's this afternoon, the end of the week. This is Charles at Wells Farms. As always, enjoy the journey, and we'll talk soon.